There's real greatness in this business when you don't have to mention his name, just mention kind of a nickname that he's known by. All I need to tell you that Stone Cold's in the house. Yeah.
It's good to be here tonight. It's my second C.A.C. My first one with a microphone in front of my face, so I would like to say thank you to the men and women who graced the squared circle before me. I've had a great time doing this job. It was probably the best thing that ever happened in my life. So many great people are here today, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited. I get nervous every now and then when I'm in the company with great people, and so many are here tonight, so thank you very much. Now, there's also a guy here. I was broken into business by a gentleman, Chris Adams. There's a guy here today. He's in a hood and a mask. I know his name. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to break kayfabe. Would you stand up? You know who you are. Is the guy here?
He just went upstairs.
He just went upstairs. Okay, well, the guy here that helped break me in, I want to say thank you very much and take my hat off to him. But nonetheless, I am here tonight to talk about a good friend of mine. And I got a call a few weeks ago from Jim Ross. And he said, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" And I stopped everything I was doing. I put my phone charger in because if you know Jim Ross, when he calls you on the phone, it's going to be a long conversation. There's a reason he was an announcer. It was a job that he was born to do. And so anyway, Jim calls me and says, "Hey, I'd like for you to introduce me to the C.A.C. thing for the Art Abrams Lifetime Achievement Award." And he goes, "Well, hell, Steve, you know I'm not dead yet. I got a lot of stuff I still want to do." And that's kind of the mentality that Jim Ross always brings to the table. And I started thinking about this when he hung up the phone, and I started thinking, I said, well, you know, this is Jim Ross I'm going to talk about here. He's a good friend of mine, but he means so much to the business and the history of the business. And I need to think about what I'm going to say for him to put it over to justice. So I called him back and I said, "Hey, Jim, you know, could you give me send me an email of all the stuff that you've done in the wrestling business so I can kind of represent you a little better than, you know, I think I can." And so he sends me this email back, and it's about 15 damn pages long. And I throw that one out the window because after so many chair shots, there's no way I can retain all that information. That's why most of the roles that I do in these movies are very limited because I can't remember dialogue. But nonetheless, Jim Ross started off setting up rings. He started refereeing, and then when there was a void, he started announcing. And I think that was Jim's calling because he was a natural storyteller. He always has been. And from what I've seen, as much as he's done in the wrestling business for over 36 years, I know that he's probably most proud of everything he's done. But as an eye for talent, for recruiting talent, me being one of the talents he recruited to the WWE roster, an eye for talent and what makes a good wrestler, a great wrestler, or a star. He's always had that eye, and he's extremely proud of the roster that he put together with WWE and for WCW for that matter. But I think the biggest thing that everybody will always remember about Jim Ross was his ability when he had a microphone in front of his face. And the thing that impresses me so much about Jim's career is, you know, when I was flipping channels, and I grew up 100 miles south of Houston, Texas, and I grew up watching Houston wrestling, run by Paul Bosch. And then finally I started getting mid-south at Power Pro. And, you know, there was Jim Ross calling the action there. Ted, you were there right there with R.U. Hughes and Michael Hayes and everybody else. And that was a territory full of badass workers, great storylines, strong personalities and characters. And, you know, a little bit later, he shows up in the NWA. Same thing, world-class workers. And, you know, he's telling the story as it happens in the ring. And from there, you know, to the WWE. And at the time, the WWE was, you know, kind of gimmicks and characters. And he fits right in that mode, too. Always a great IC run with the world champions were kind of gimmick and character oriented. But he never missed a beat. Then along comes the Attitude Era. And he fits right in that mode. And from that transitioned into the G period, which is kind of what the WWE is going through now. But He's always fit, he's always made better the product that he's talking about. And I've always looked at a professional wrestling match as being a steak. When you turn up the volume, that announcer is putting salt and pepper and everything on that steak to make it better than what it really is. And I can speak from personal experience from my run as Stone Cold Steve Austin in WWE. There's not another announcer who could have handled my run the way Jim did. He knew always what was in my heart, what was in my gut, and what was in my brain. And he could do that with any wrestler that he ever watched. And it's that ability to not just communicate to a crowd, but to reach out and pull on their heartstrings and reach into their guts and make them feel emotion. When you've got a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin full of piss and vinegar, and you can actually make people feel sorry for him or feel a sympathy for him when he's been screwed by the boss, that's a hell of a damn accomplishment. I've ridden down the road with Jim Ross between towns, talking about everything and stories and the business, and he's meant so much to me on a personal level as a dear friend, and you know, sometimes as a father figure, sometimes as an older brother. But Jim Ross is truly one of a kind. And when you talk about professional wrestlers or anything, that where you have your top 5 list or you know whatever the best is, it's very subjective, particularly this business, professional wrestling. It's not sports entertainment, it's professional wrestling.
Yeah.
You're always going to have one name come to mind over and over and over again, and it's always going to be Jim Ross, in my opinion, the greatest of all time. Yeah. And truly a credit to the business and a person who loves the business every day he wakes up. And he still has more to give. Greatest announcer of all time. Receiving the Art Abrams Lifetime Achievement Award, Mr. Jim Ross.
JJ fired me once, you're out. JJ was only carrying out orders. God knows I did that plenty of times. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is really a neat honor, and to have my friend Stone Cold to be here, come here to do this. You know, he's a credit to the business because you see him on the movies, whether it be on Damage or The Stranger, which is out June 1 on DVD. But he will carry pro wrestling with him on the movie screen. And he's not a sports entertainer, he's a pro wrestler. And that's what drew me into the business. You know, this is a really neat deal. I don't know, God Almighty, I look at the list of the people that won this award, and I feel like a pair of brown shoes at a formal wedding. What the hell am I doing up here? Danny Hodge, Dan Gable, and Jim Ross. What's wrong with that picture? Nonetheless, I grew up in Eastern Oklahoma, only child. I'm going to really go through this quick, but I got some stories I want to tell. And I want to have some fun with this tonight, because I think that the business is about the relationships that we've all been able to build, and it's about the experiences that we've had. That's why most of you are here that have been in the business, because of the relationships that you built and renewing old friendships. I built a wrestling ring out of a little piece of lumber and 4 nails and some baling wire, and use Army men as wrestlers. And the best Army man that didn't fall apart was Danny Hodge. I got fascinated in the early 60s when the Assassins, Tom Ernesto and Joe Hamilton, formed a team, and they played on Kennedy getting assassinated on a grassy knoll and became the Assassins. And they had a phenomenal run with the Kentuckians, Grizzly Smith and Luke Brown. And that tag team situation really was good. It fell over. It was really good, and they brought me into the business as a white-eyed kid that I had to be a part of it somehow. But in Oklahoma, where I grew up and where we still live, you know, we were known for Danny Hodge and Cowboy Bill Watts, and of course the late great Jack Briscoe. And earlier this year, I had the privilege of giving Jack's eulogy in Tampa. And then the man I'm going to talk about now is the one that was a forerunner to all of them, named Leroy McGirt. I don't think very many people here, probably there's already a few that remember Leroy. Leroy lost his sight in 1951 as a junior, and he's a junior heavyweight champion. So at the peak of his career, he became blind. And Leroy and I worked together. Leroy was my first broadcast partner. And I had to learn to be descriptive. You know, I've always thought what brought me to the dance was my passion for the product and my love of the game. I wasn't a great athlete that so many here are. I met Don Leo Jonathan yesterday, and I have to tell you, I was in awe. Wow, wasn't that much awe. I was really in awe. Because I heard so much about Don Leo Jonathan over the years. And I got a chance to meet him yesterday. When I'm in the same room with Danny Hodge, it's like if we were at a baseball convention, I was in the same room with Mickey Mantle. He's my guy, my hero. And we traveled together. And I drove mile after mile after mile. I said, "Now it's your turn to drive." "Okay, Tiger. Okay, Jim." So we get behind the wheel, and I doze off. About 10 minutes later, I hear gravel all over the car. And I'd say, "All right," he'd be slapping himself. Then I'd go back to sleep. He'd do the same thing. I'd wake up so angry. I said, "Hell, let's let me drive. God, you're killing me. You're just killing me." And I told somebody at the tent, I said, hey kid. I was a kid then. "Hey kid, well, you look tired. You been sleeping?" He said, "No, I drove Hodge 300 miles, went to Monroe to Tulsa, got it, you know, drive." "You can't stay awake." He says, "Is he playing that gravel trick on you?" "What gravel trick?" "Or the gravel trick. Trick me." One time, Leroy was a really interesting man, very complex, educated, went to Oklahoma A&M, was a national champion at Oklahoma A&M, but could be very volatile upon his imbibing on whiskey. And because I was Bill Watts' lackey, making $125 a week, I did lackey jobs. Like, I drove Leroy. I was Leroy's driver. Because if he was blind, it really wasn't cool for him to drive. I got pissed off at him one time and asked if he wanted to drive, and that didn't go so well. He was complaining about my driving. "You're blind. How fast do you know I'm going or not going? You can't see." All right, so on Tuesdays, we drove from Tulsa to Shreveport. It's 300 miles. And I'm behind, the first time I drove a Cadillac. He was also the first blind man I ever knew. Which reminds me of the first time I took a shower with an African-American man, which reminded me of why I didn't have any business in there either. But that's another story for their audience. Leroy and I are going to Shreveport. And I get on the road, and he's got his whiskey in one hand, cigar in the other, and he's balancing them both. And he looks in the glove box, and he takes out a .38, like that most powerful handgun in the world thing. And he puts it in his lap. So he's got his gun in his lap, whiskey in one hand, and a cigar in the other. And I'm thinking, man, I ain't very smart. Well, this is gonna flush. And I said, "Leroy, what do we need that gun for?" "We, you know, my buddies. "We, what do we need that gun for, Leroy?" "Well, we are going to Shreveport, and I'm going to kill that Ted DiBiase. I want to murder that bastard." You're going to help me set it up. Now, wait just a second here. I just, 125 a week, I expect a few more, a couple more shekels for the accessory to murder. You should make more than 125 a week. I didn't think it was a good time to negotiate my contract, so I just said, Leroy, contract, like we had a contract back in those days. Well, young Ted was a amorous young lad. Rumor had it he might have been squiring young Miss McGurk. Now, it wasn't like she was 12, come on. She was like 18. But he was a young guy too. He was 20-something. Maybe 30, no, I'm kidding. So we get to the, about halfway there, and I don't really get worried because I got a drunk blind man, freight train and cigars, loaded gun, and me driving. And we pull off this restaurant to eat, and I got to tell him where his food is. Like the fried chicken is at 3 o'clock, and the mashed potatoes are noon. And he'd argue that I told him it was at 3 o'clock. He thought he got to be a hell of a deal. A drunk blind man down at a truck stop. So I go to the payphone. Now we don't have texting or cell phones or email. I go to the payphone, call the office collect. They give him the number, they call Cowboy, who's right TV in Shreveport. He calls me on the payphone, and he asks what's going on, and he's mad, what are you bothering me for? I'm right television. Well, I have your partner, and he's belligerently drunk, and he's armed, and we're coming to Shreveport to kill Ted DiBiase. Just so you know. Just thought I'd throw it out there. I want to write a TV show. News bulletin. Promoter kills DiBiase. He said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it when you get here. He's just drunk. He'll forget about it by the time you get here. Well, on the way down, so Leroy now is helping me plan this murder. Now, what you do is we get to the hotel, you put me in a chair about 8 feet from the door, and when he opens the door, I'll just start shooting. That's a hell of a plan, Leroy. That's what I do if I shoot. I fill that son of a bitch up with bullets. Yes, sir. So he wore these little double knit breeches, the J. Mar Sansa belt double knits, like Dick Barstow wears. I love you, Dick. I'm on a kid. Don't do it. Stretch him here or nothing. But he wore them kind of high up, and he wore like a 38 waist, and he'd buy a 42, so he had a little extra room. For what, I don't know, and never asked. He's smoking a cigar, and I usually told him when his ashes are getting long. But I was a little bit offended I was going to be accessory to murder, go to prison. Meet somebody named Big March, and sleep on my back for the rest of my life. So his ashes are getting longer. And I said, what the hell? Just let it go. And he does this thing, the cigar, ashes get longer, and the ash drops into the extra space in his double knits. Now then, nothing happened for about 10 seconds. And that knit stuff, or it's an oil byproduct or something, it burned right through. So when the hot ash of that cigar hit the promised land, he commenced screaming. And the 38 went across the dash, bouncing like dice out here in this casino. And the cigar went somewhere else, and the ash can, the Folgers can, the ashtray went, and I'm pulling off the road, and we get off the road, and I don't know exactly what to do because the man's crotch is on fire, and he's blind, and I wasn't really sure how I was supposed to address this. I didn't learn this rule at 22 years old. It's a FFA boy. And I'm just thinking, I pull off, I go around his door, and he's on fire, and I said, look, how can I help you? And then I'm thinking, I got my face kind of down near his crotch. And if a highway patrolman is going to pull up behind us, he's going to see a loaded 38 on the dashboard. and a young boy with his face in the crotch of an old drunk blind man. I was going to try to figure out the story. Well, officer, here's really what happened. See, the deal is, we were going down to Shreveport to kill this guy. But it was a great experience working in Leroy as my partner. I had to be very expressive, and you can't tell I'm kind of still that way. And I haven't had any coffee today. I have had a couple of drinks. So Leroy said be very expressive and do a little radio while you're doing this TV. Well, we had a match in Tulsa when Bill and Leroy had one of their 844 fights, and would never speak to each other again deals. And we had about 20 people at a TV taping in a barn at the fairgrounds. About the 20 same people. But you could all tell they were listening to tea, that had, same dress. This here thought it was real. This one to fight everybody, and just cussing and stuff. Well, we brought this guy in from Tennessee. I'm not going to say his name because I can't remember. But he wore yellow tights. And he took a big old backdrop. And apparently he had maybe that loose bowel thing. Well, now there ain't no retakes this day. They like the Vincent man, I will do that over. Just run back out there and do that again. And then the audience will, they'll not know. We just got the tape rolling. And now the audience, all 20 or 30 of them, which you can hear what all of them are saying, are starting to laugh. And this guy's supposed to be getting over as a heel. And he's beating up the guy he's wrestling with. And Leroy would understand why they're laughing. And I can't tell him on the air that this guy just shit himself. Working a blind man, you got to be descriptive. And I think that match is probably out there on YouTube somewhere. Y'all look it up and I had a real, I went from a W with Watts and working with Bill was interesting. Ernie Ladd was interesting. With Ernie, I learned how to respect African Americans because I grew up in a county where if you were black, you couldn't let the sun set on you. That was a law, it was really stupid. And they really had a problem when I was in high school because we played an all-black high school to state playoffs. And the county commission had to meet with the sheriff about not arresting all the football players and cheerleaders and mom and daddies at our high school football game. That's what redneck area that I lived in. So meeting Ernie Ladd was really good for me because it taught me respect of everybody. And he said someday if you get lucky, you might be in charge of a talent roster. And ironically that worked out. And I did manage and recruit and hire a lot of men and women of color. And I've never had any issues there, and I thank Ernie Ladd. God bless you, Ernie, for that. I went to, the one thing about going on the road I remember is that, and you wrestlers don't be offended because I'm not a wrestler, even though, Steve, I did headline the Man Who Went to the Garden one time, right? Remember that? And we sold it out, and I got blood. Yeah, I beat Triple H. Kicked his ass. 19,321 were there. I remember, but I also remember what my payoff was. We should have been there in JJ, I need your help. I'm a little short that week. The one thing about wrestling that I've noticed is that traveling with wrestlers, and you're the young guy and you got to drive all the time, and this is not about Danny Hodge, this is about other men. They fart a lot. And I would go home with fart in my clothes. And I think that I think my oldest daughter's mother, we don't mention her name anymore. I think she thought I was having maybe a carnal knowledge of a man. But she could smell a man's fart in my clothes. I believe that what really set her off was when I was on the phone talking to the office about going to the airport and telling them I would be happy and honored to pick up Dick the Bruiser. Some kind of crazy ass gay porn thing she thought I was involved in. I have had some great run in WCW. Was interesting. Working with Ted Turner was good. Meeting Steve, all these guys at WCW was interesting. I'll tell you, if you get invited to be on a booking committee, don't do it. I've had some health issues that have, you know, it is what they are. What they are. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of folks that have situations worse than mine. But I wish Pat Patterson was here, because I really want to thank Pat. You know, Pat is the guy that really turned me on and about, not really. If that makes the internet, I'm going to find each and every one of your asses. Pat suggested that I get a colonoscopy. And he talked to me like he knew a great deal about colonoscopies. And when you're over 50, you're supposed to get a colonoscopy. And Pat said he's been getting one twice a month for about 25 years. Pat is a great guy, one of the great British guys and the great workers ever. And my wife is sitting here, God bless her. You know, we've been together since 1993, and the rest of the years, just like, oh, I don't know, since when Abe Lincoln wrestled Stu Hart or something. The issue is, where I grew up in that redneck part of Oklahoma, they didn't embrace black people bad, and there was a lot of homophobia there, as you can imagine. They turned their head in that one scene in Deliverance. So I found myself in Connecticut getting my hair cut at Pat Patterson's house by Louis Dondero, his partner, who has left us and was a wonderful man. And I'm in the basement of Pat's house getting a haircut, surrounded by Louis cut my hair, and he's a gay man. And Pat is watching him. He's riding shotgun. He's a gay man. And Terry Garvin is sitting there, and he's smoking a joint. And there was some other gay dude that I didn't know. And I'm thinking, man, the cowboy can see me now. I liked, when I went to WWE in '93, I debuted here in Las Vegas, wearing a toga. And Bobby Heenan tried to get me to go commando that day, not wearing the underwear. I knew that son of a gun had something up his sleeve, so I had my haze on. And but it was an interesting little deal here, debut in WWE. I've had a great run there. I got a chance to meet Bobby Heenan, as I said, who I love, and he's going to have some challenging times. He still has a great sense of humor and his wonderful timing. And the thing that I will always love Bobby for is that Bobby would get to TV early, and if any of you worked at, or been at a WWE event, they always had Vince's office earmarked, and that's, you know, it's clear. So Bobby would get there early, and he would go into Vince's John and deposit what he'd been holding for Vince, maybe 2 or 3 days. And Bobby really got pissed off when those toilets started flushing automatically when you get up, because he left the evidence in Vince's bathroom. Of course, Vince is just a little fastidious. He wouldn't eat a piece of fried chicken with his hands, but that's the only thing he had on a desert island. But Bobby would leave the deposit and then go tell the boys. And of course, it was just a great story. He just wanted, Vince never sold it, to his credit. But Bobby's a wonderful guy, and I met him, Earl Monsoon, all those little New York guys, Arnold Skolin, and the guys that I had met through the Oklahoma territory. It's been a great run. So my life has been really blessed. My health issues are under control, and I hope you enjoyed a little barbecue sauce tonight and made some ketchup. That was a very organic segue into the free plug. And there's Nick Bockwinkel here. You know, Bobby Heenan once described Nick Bockwinkel to me as Jim Barnett on steroids. And I thought that Nick was gay. Well, I didn't know him. I knew he was a great worker. I see the AWA tapes. We bought those tapes, you know. But Nick has become really a great friend and one of the great workers. I wish I had been able to call some of his matches. I think that the opportunities of refereeing a match with Harley Race and Terry Funk, is that my cue? Briscoe, being able to hire guys like Steve Austin and The Rock and see them wrestle, headline 3 WrestleManias. Can you imagine that? 3 WrestleManias they headline. Is that right, Steve? 3? You got screwed all those payoffs, right? Yeah, I know. So it's been a great run. I have enjoyed all of it, and it's all because I love the business just like all of you all. And that's why we're here. So I want to thank you very much for indulging me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. And I just want you to know that I was a little offended by the Lifetime Achievement distinction because I'm 58 and I ain't dead and I've got a lot left to do my voice is going to be on those tapes, but I'm not going to be silenced at this moment with things. I'm going to continue to do work, but somewhere, somehow, some way, because all the old wrestlers said, we got one more match in me. I got one more. Hell, I can do one more. Yeah, hey, kid, I can do one more. I get you 10 minutes, 12 minutes, what do you want? About 3. I think I can do some more matches, and I have a nice little, I've had a great run if I don't do any more. But I'm going to come back here every year, hopefully, God willing, and we'll all continue to make friends. And I thank you for your time tonight. And again, this award has been wonderful. And I will close by saying this. I got to talk a whole lot more here tonight than I did at this year's WrestleMania. Thank you very much.
Vision's blurred. The future's black, forsaken world. No chance in hell, nowhere to turn, yeah. Within my soul, it slowly burns. Closing in on me, yeah, yeah. Oh, no turning back. Salvation's gone and the future's black. patience gone and the future's bright.